Tonight, when you get home, your dog runs to the door. Something ancient is happening in that moment. You probably think you picked your dog. You chose the breed. You chose the puppy. You brought it home. But here's the strange part. Your dog's ancestors picked you first. 10,000 years ago, there were no leashes, no dog food, no word for pet. Back then, wolves made a choice no other wild animal has ever made. They walked toward human campfires instead of running away. Every instinct in a wild wolf says stay away from fire, from smoke, from strange animals. But some wolves didn't run. Why? Here's where most people get the story wrong. They picture a caveman finding a wolf pup and raising it by hand. It's a nice picture. It's probably not true. Wild wolves are hard to tame even as babies. A wolf raised by a person still grows up to think like a wolf, not like a pet. One tame wolf does not make a dog. So if people didn't tame the wolf, what did? The answer is garbage. 10,000 years ago, human camps left behind something new. Piles of food scraps, bones, leftovers, in the same spot day after day. For a wolf, this was strange and exciting. Free food without the danger of hunting a deer. But there was a problem. Getting to that food meant getting close to people. And most wolves couldn't do it. They'd see a person, they'd hear a voice, and they'd run. But not every wolf reacted the same way. In any group of animals, some are bolder than others. Some are calmer around new things. This isn't about personality. It's just how nature works. And the calmer wolves could get closer to the food without panicking. They ate more. They survived better. And they passed that same calm nature down to their pups. Generation after generation, without any person planning it, the calmest wolves were the ones eating well and having more pups. Nature was quietly running its own breeding program. The only rule was, don't be scared of us. This is where a scientist named Dmitry Belyaev comes into the story, even though he never studied wolves at all. In the 1950s, Belyaev ran a famous experiment on foxes. He didn't breed them for size or color or smarts. He picked them for one thing only: how calm they stayed around people. Within a few generations, something surprising happened. The tame foxes didn't just act friendlier. They started to look different too. Their ears turned floppy. Their tails started to curl. Patches of white fur showed up on their coats. Even their skulls changed shape, becoming rounder and more puppy-like. Belyaev had only bred for calm behavior. The new looks came along for free. Why would calmness bring floppy ears and curly tails with it? The answer might be something called the neural crest. It's a group of cells in a growing baby animal that controls both fear in the brain and things like ear shape, tail shape, and fur color. So picking for calm behavior seems to quietly change a whole bundle of physical traits at the same time. It's not two separate changes. It's one change with several side effects. That means the floppy ears on your dog, and the curly tail behind it, aren't just cute design choices. They're leftover proof of an ancient selection process, written right into its body. Now picture that same thing happening slowly over thousands of years, to the wolves circling those human food piles. The calmest ones ate the best. The calmest ones had the most pups. And each generation looked a little different. Shorter snouts, more expressive faces, ears that stopped standing straight up. Nobody designed any of this. It's simply what happens when animals get less afraid, generation after generation. Here's the part that should really surprise you. People were not driving any of this. For most of it, we were just standing near our food scraps, with no idea that a brand new kind of animal was quietly forming around our leftovers. This is the same idea a biologist named Raymond Coppinger spent years defending. Coppinger argued that dogs basically domesticated themselves. It happened through something closer to natural selection than to human planning. People didn't design the dog. People built garbage piles, and some wolves evolved to take advantage of them. The partnership between humans and dogs came after the change, not before it. Only later, once these proto-dogs were already calm and comfortable around people, did humans start doing what we're known for. We noticed which ones barked at strangers, which ones were good at herding instead of chasing, which ones just liked being near us. From that point on, yes, we started breeding them on purpose for specific jobs and specific personalities. But that came after wolves had already done the hardest part on their own, by deciding to put up with us in the first place. There's another twist, and it comes from a researcher named Brian Hare, who studies how dogs think. Hare found that dogs are amazingly good at reading human signals, like a simple pointed finger toward hidden food. That sounds obvious until you learn that wolves, even wolves raised by hand, are bad at this same task. Chimpanzees, some of our closest animal relatives, are also bad at it. But dogs get it almost instantly, even as puppies with zero training. Why would a wolf-descended animal be better at reading human body language than an ape that shares 98% of our DNA? The likely answer is that this skill wasn't just inherited. It was selected for. Wolves that paid close attention to human behavior, that could guess what a person near the food was about to do, survived better around us. Over time, dogs became experts at reading humans, in a way no other animal on the planet has matched. So when your dog looks up the second you shift your weight toward the kitchen, or reads your tone before it even hears your words, you're not watching something it was trained to do. You're watching the result of 10,000 years of selection for that exact skill. There's one more piece of this story, and it might be the strangest part. A Japanese researcher named Takefumi Kikusui studied what happens in the body when a dog and its owner simply look into each other's eyes. He found that both the dog's brain and the person's brain release a hormone called oxytocin, the same chemical that spikes when a parent bonds with a newborn baby. Wolves don't do this with humans. Even hand-raised wolves rarely hold eye contact with people the way dogs do. Somewhere along the way, dogs developed a bonding system with humans that mirrors the one we use with our own children. Think about that for a second. The animal sitting by your feet right now may be running the same biological bonding loop your brain uses for family. Not because a breeder designed it that way, because thousands of years ago, staring calmly into a human's eyes, instead of looking away in fear, was one more small advantage that helped a wolf get closer to the food pile and survive. This changes how you might see some everyday moments. When your dog tilts its head at an unfamiliar sound, it isn't just being cute. It's using an ancient, finely tuned listening system built for reading humans. When it wags its tail slightly more to one side of its body, some researchers believe that carries meaning too, tied to how it's feeling in that moment. Your dog isn't choosing to send you these signals on purpose. Its whole body is still built around the same question its ancestors asked at every campfire. Is this person safe, and what are they about to do next? Even the way your dog greets other dogs traces back to this same story. Sniffing, circling, a loose wagging tail, these are old survival tools, repurposed for a much friendlier world than the one they were built for. A behavior that once helped a wolf figure out whether a stranger was a threat now just helps your dog figure out whether the dog at the park wants to play. Think about what your dog does the next time you walk in the door. It doesn't just recognize your face. It reads your posture, your voice, your walking pace, before you've said a single word. That instinct traces all the way back to a wolf standing at the edge of a human camp, trying to figure out if it was safe to come closer for food. The wolves that got good at reading us were the ones who got to eat. The wolves that got good at reading us were the ones who became your dog. And the floppy ears, the wagging tail, the tilted head when it hears a strange sound, none of that was invented by dog breeders. It was already there, thousands of years earlier, as a side effect of just one trait: the willingness to stay calm near something that could have killed it. It's worth sitting with how different this is from almost every other story we tell about domestication. We usually imagine ourselves as the ones in control, picking and shaping animals to fit our needs. But with dogs, the first and most important step happened without us. It happened in the space between a hungry wolf and a pile of scraps, long before anyone thought to call that wolf a friend. We only showed up afterward to name what evolution had already built. Tonight, when you get home and your dog meets you at the door, remember what's really happening. You didn't just pick a companion. You inherited the descendants of the boldest wolves who ever lived, animals whose entire family line exists because, one scrap pile at a time, they decided people were worth the risk.